3 winners and 1 loser from the last big 2022 primaries. New Hampshire, Delaware, and Rhode Island picked their candidates. The primary season, which began with the death rattle of the Bush political dynasty in Texas, ended with President Joe Biden jetting back to Wilmington on Air Force One to cast his ballot less than an hour before polls closed. Yet while Biden was voting in a relatively uneventful election in Delaware, the most interesting race on the ballot featured an incumbent state auditor who had recently been found guilty of corruption and consequently lost 70-30. The results were already being tabulated to the north in New Hampshire in primaries that could determine control of Congress in November. And the shape of politics on Capitol Hill afterward. Here are 3 winners and 1 loser from Tuesday's races. Winner, National Democrats. National Democrats pushed weak Republican candidates over the finish line both in a congressional race and in the New Hampshire GOP Senate primary. Don Bolduc, a retired Army brigadier general who believes Donald Trump won the 2020 election, said that the election was rigged in New Hampshire and has made false claims about COVID vaccines, pulled off a victory over State Senate President Chuck Morse in a split field. Morse conceded early Wednesday. This happened even though Morse had been propped up by over $4 million in outside spending from a super PAC that will not need to disclose its donors until after the election. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, R., derided Bolduc as a conspiracy theorist and vocally backed Morse. In contrast, a Democratic super PAC, the Senate Majority PAC, spent $3.8 million bashing Morse as the candidate of Mitch McConnell's Washington establishment to damage him among Republicans. Bolduc only spent about $100,000 on television ads. New Hampshire has been expected to be one of the closest Senate races in the country. Incumbent Maggie Hassan won the Granite State by 1,017 votes in 2016 and was considered vulnerable in the midterms as a swing state senator in a year when Republicans were favored. Democrats think her odds of beating the extreme Bolduc are much better than if a less extreme candidate had won. National Democrats also appear to have gotten lucky in New Hampshire's 2nd District GOP primary, where Bob Burns, the former Hillsborough County Treasurer, leads George Hansel, the mayor of Keene. Over $600,000 in outside Democratic money was spent to boost Burns as an ultra-conservative candidate against Hansel, the comparatively moderate mayor of a college town. In contrast, Burns had raised less than $200,000 for his entire campaign. The district, represented by 2-term incumbent Democrat and McLean Custer, leans Democrat. Biden won at 54-45 in 2020. Burns's likely win makes the district even more of a reach for national Republicans. Loser, Kevin McCarthy. The Congressional Leadership Fund, CLF, a super PAC aligned with the House Minority Leader, spent $1.8 million in New Hampshire's 1st congressional district to boost Matt Mowers, a veteran political operative who had been the GOP nominee in that swing district in 2020. Mowers lost. Instead, Caroline Leavitt, a 25-year-old who would be the youngest female member of Congress in history, won. Leavitt has recently refused to say whether she'd vote for McCarthy for Speaker and made false claims about the 2020 election. The district, represented by 2-term incumbent Chris Pappas, is considered a toss-up in November. And while Leavitt's rhetoric may create headaches for McCarthy if she is elected, it is not likely to be as significant a political obstacle in a congressional district that Trump won in 2016. One Democrat familiar with the race told Vox that while polling showed Mowers as a stronger general candidate than Leavitt, it was not a substantial edge. Winner, Elise Stefanik. Leavitt's win wasn't bad news for everyone in House leadership. Elise Stefanik, the House GOP conference chair, had vigorously backed Leavitt, her former staffer. Leavitt's victory came the same night Stefanik said she would seek to retain her position, which she won earlier this year after Liz Cheney, Republican Wyoming, was ousted from it for criticizing Donald Trump.